The rematch of the century is finally here. The Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs going head-to-head today at 4:25 for the whole nation to tune in. What's happening, everybody? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I'm so thankful to be here, sitting right here with this amazing game in front of us. I know one thing is for sure, breaking down this game was far more difficult than previous weeks, because these are two very, very good teams going head-to-head in the Kansas City Chiefs, of course, and the Buffalo Bills. Dare I say, these two teams could quite possibly be even better heading into this matchup than what they were last season. I know the Buffalo Bills are, for a lot of reasons, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs have proven, especially during last week's contest between the Raiders and the Chiefs, that the Chiefs can actually rally back, not just without a weapon that I'll talk about throughout the show. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I want to remind you guys from the jump to subscribe to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, any and all podcasting platforms audio-wise, any live show that I do where you're tuning in, you're watching me, you guys can check it out and listen to it on the audio side of things. If you're driving, into work, you get an hour-long drive, you get a half-hour-long drive, use my podcast as a way of making that drive seem a lot more enjoyable. Rather than listening to the mumbo-jumbo that you hear politically, tune into some sports stuff. You'll hear some awesome Buffalo Bills content, breakdowns, if you will, as well. UFC 280, that goes down October 22nd, next Saturday. I already have my podcast out for that. Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev going head-to-head for the UFC lightweight title. And obviously Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw as well going head-to-head for the UFC World Bantamweight Championship. I gave my preview, prediction, breakdown of that, if you will. Check that out. I know you guys will enjoy it as well. So, we're here to talk Buffalo Bills football. And I am here to take your comments. Any comments that you guys have, fire those away in the comments section below. Follow along, of course, on Twitter and Instagram at Ryan Thomas Take. And the two avenues that you guys can listen to the podcast, YouTube and Facebook, watching it, subscribe. I really appreciate the support. Subscribe goes a long, long way. So this is the Bills versus Chiefs pregame show, and this is the rematch of the century featuring the two best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Yes, I said it. I said it last year. I'm saying it this year. The two best quarterbacks going head-to-head. Josh Allen, that is, versus Patrick Mahomes, the two best in the game. I don't even think it's close. I'm not going to throw Aaron Rodgers in that mix. I'm sure as hell not throwing geriatric Tom Brady in that mix. I'm going with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes as the two best quarterbacks in the National Football League. So with this pregame show, I'm going to highlight what I feel is a huge difference in this matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs compared to last year's difference. And it's fresh in my mind. Unfortunately, I should actually say fortunately, I was at Seneca Niagara Casino Saturday, yes, last night, and they played, Friday night, they played the Bills versus Chiefs game on the jumbo screen. I don't know why, but they did. And I couldn't take my eyes off of it, due in large part to, it's almost like a car crash that you know it's coming, but you just can't take your eyes off of it when you see it happen before it happens on the road type thing. And in that matchup last season, there was one player that really took the game over, that really showed how rare of an athlete he is at the wide receiver position. That player is now the missing piece for the Kansas City Chiefs heading into this matchup. That player is Tyreek Hill, who is now playing for the Miami Dolphins. And I was very curious in conversations that I had with friends, conversations that I had with fellow podcasters, as far as how were the Chiefs going to address, shall I say, I don't want to say replace, but how are they going to replace the production, frankly, with another player that's on the team? Tyreek Hill gone. Is that player going to be Juju Smith-Schuster? Is that player going to be Mecole Hardman? Is that player going to be Sky Moore? Thus far, the answer to that question is no, no, and no. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster has shown On occasion, he's got some decent things in his skill set. Of course, he's got the size, he's got the agility for his size that is very rare at the wide receiver position. But in terms of comparing Juju Smith-Schuster to Tyreek Hill, there's no comparison. And with all due respect to Juju Smith-Schuster and with all due respect to Tyreek Hill, I don't think they should even be mentioned in the same breath, in the same sentence. Because they're two completely different players. I'm not saying that Juju Smith-Schuster is not a good player. I'm saying that Tyreek Hill is just a far different level of a player that you have to really prepare for. And I don't think there is a wide receiver as fast as him. I don't think there is a corner out there that can catch him, that can cover him in terms of the speed department. And I think he proved that in that game. That was the biggest proving point of Tyreek Hill's excellence, of Tyreek Hill's speed in that later portion of the game between the Bills and Chiefs last year in the AFC 2021 divisional round. And thus far, I have not seen a wide receiver take that spot from Tyreek Hill. But last week, what really encouraged me in regards to the Buffalo Bills, in the week prior, actually, against the Baltimore Ravens, is that this defense has an added piece to it that I wouldn't even say is an added piece via player. It's more of an added piece via player, via attitude, via moxie, and that player is Von Miller. Now, Von Miller leads the Buffalo Bills in sacks with 4 sacks this season. Von Miller has been one of the best pass rushers in the NFL since he started playing in the NFL, 10 years ago, 2011, maybe 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. But to me, and I say this every single week, and I think I'm seeing it more often as the weeks progress here this season, it's not about Von Miller and what he provides the Bills as his own individual player. It's more about what Von Miller spreads in terms of the wisdom upon guys like Gregory Rousseau, Ed Oliver, Boogie Basham, AJ Epinesa, because this Buffalo Bills defense has been scary good. To take the words from Rick Jeanneret and a Buffalo Sabres reference back in the day, this Bills defense has been insane as far as their pace, as far as their fluidity. I am seeing things from this Bills defense that I did not expect, and it's a Bills defense without Trey White, without Micah Hyde, and in portions throughout this season without Jordan Poyer. So, knowing that, okay, Kyrie Elam has stepped up. DeMar Hamlin has stepped up. Sirian Neal has stepped up. All these guys that were chomping at the bit to have an opportunity have stepped up, and they're not just stepping up against, the middle-of-the-road offenses. They're stepping up against the LA Rams. They're stepping up against the Baltimore Ravens, down 20-3. And they've only allowed what was, I think, 10 points, if my memory serves me right, 10 points in the second half all season long, proving that defense is not only a second half defense, but that offense is humming after that. That gives the offense somewhat of an energy boost that it didn't experience quite often last year, and it certainly didn't experience it last season when the Buffalo Bills were playing the Kansas City Chiefs, whether it was in the regular season game that we actually won or whether it was in the divisional round that we ultimately lost. Patrick Mahomes had one thing that you cannot give him in any game, let alone a game of high stakes. Both teams 4-1 heading into this one. A high stakes game. We know what's on the line: pride, dignity, respect of beating Kansas City after they beat us last playoff round in our last matchup that we played in the playoffs. And that is, you cannot give Pat Mahomes time. You can't give Pat Mahomes time to not just stand in the pocket. You can't give Pat Mahomes time to extend the play outside of the pocket. You have to be that defense that can move around with Pat Mahomes. And we saw that with the Cincinnati Bengals, and ultimately what allowed the Cincinnati Bengals to beat Pat Mahomes is not that they just picked him off a couple times, not that they, scored a bunch of points with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and you name it. It was a simple fact that they frustrated Pat Mahomes. They forced Pat Mahomes to look through read after read after read with great coverage. And that was something that Buffalo could not do. Simply, not just in the 13 seconds, but in many of moments throughout that game that allowed that game to be this seesaw, back and forth shootout between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Coverage is key in this one. Coverage is key, and pass rush pressure is key in this one with Patrick Mahomes. And I do feel that the Bills do not have to worry as much in this one with who the Chiefs have. But to date, the Chiefs have not utilized Sky Moore, Mecole Hardman. Is this the matchup where the Kansas City Chiefs release the speed that they do have, allow the speed to roam freely that they do have to create opportunity beyond the catch, running after catch, yards after catch? That is what killed this Buffalo Bills defense last season. And I do expect to see those names pop up on my TV screen today at 4:25 when the Bills are going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I expect to see Sky Moore, Mecole Hardman at least phased in far more than what they have in previous weeks this season. But I also expect this Buffalo Bills defense and the added pieces that they do have, the added dimension, I should say, that the Bills defense has, I do expect this defense to rush Pat Mahomes. I do expect this defense to play very physical today. And I'd also like to mention that Jordan Poyer is active for this one. I'd also like to mention that Dawson Knox is active for this one. So I also expect that Trey White won't be playing in this game, but very well after this bye week, heading into Green Bay, the Bills will be playing Trey White against the Green Bay Packers, which is a great, bring back addition to this defense, as they need them. They need all the best, all of the best talent that they have out there. It's been a bit since Trey White's been out there. I'm looking forward to his comeback. But to say the least, the man that everyone knows about is someone that I believe is the greatest pass-catching tight end of his generation outside of Rob Gronkowski. And that is one name that I think is the thorn in the side of the Buffalo Bills far more than Tyreek Hill, and that is Travis Kelce. Now, last week I watched the Raiders and the Chiefs because obviously the Chiefs are playing the Bills this week. I wanted to see I've watched a lot of the Chiefs games, actually. They've been on primetime a lot, and rightfully so. I get it. But I wanted to watch the Chiefs and how they perform and kind of correlate that to this matchup today. Travis Kelce was a monster out there. And I know the Raiders don't have a good defense. I know the Raiders don't have a guy by the name of Matt Milano. The Raiders don't have a guy by the name of Tremaine Edmonds, who I think has played his best football this season. Those two players, Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, have to be on their A game. And yes, Teron Johnson, nickel corner, him thrown in there as well. He has to be in on his A game, covering a tight end that I think is one of the best that I've ever seen. 7 catches last week, 4 of them touchdowns. He didn't even get a lot of action in terms of possession yards. It's not like Pat Mahomes was dinking and dunking it down the field and doing what he needed to do, what he usually does with Travis Kelce. He didn't even need to do that. It was more, I'm going to pepper in the pass-catching running backs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon, which we could expect that today as well. But in the red zone, Travis Kelce was unstoppable. You don't need Tyreek Hill anymore when you have Travis Kelce playing at that high of a level in the red zone. I don't want to say you don't need him anymore, but you don't remember him. When Travis Kelce is doing what he's doing, it alleviates the loss a little bit. And it was a willing loss. It's not like Tyreek Hill, was a free agent. They traded him. They said, hey, bye-bye. We'll trade you away for a bunch of picks, and Miami's going to pay you a boatload of money that we don't want to pay you. But Travis Kelce has been the best version of himself in his entire career, I think, this season. And he's 33 years old. So the reason I offer this to you guys and gals out there tuning into this is that, I did say the missing piece is Tyreek Hill, but it seems as if the Chiefs, took this offseason and said, we're going to turn this offseason in on itself. We're going to lose Tyreek Hill, who's the fastest wide receiver in the game. We're going to add as much physical talent to this roster. Physical talent, size, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster. We're going to replace that speed with size, and it's going to make us a more physical offense rather than a fast offense. We still got the fast guys. We added Sky Moore. We've got Mecole Hardman still kicking around. But we're going to be more physical than what we have been, because when they were beat, they were beaten. They were beat up by the Cincinnati Bengals. Crazy that I'm saying that, but that's what happened. So how can Buffalo be more physical? How can Buffalo implement their game plan in a similar form and fashion to what Cincinnati did in the AFC Championship game last season? You have to rush the passer. You have to rush Pat Mahomes. You have to force Pat Mahomes to throw it to a spot he doesn't want to throw it to throw it sooner than he wants to, and to frustrate him play to play to play. And I think that has to be the game plan heading into this one. I also feel that offensively, Buffalo's game plan is contingent upon having any sort of a run game. And this is Buffalo's kryptonite. Yes, if Buffalo's offense had a kryptonite, it would be the fact that they have not been able to establish any sort of a run game this season. And I thought that, Ken Dorsey, the new offensive coordinator, would do that based upon what I saw this preseason, but we didn't see that. We didn't see that week to week, week one moving forward. We haven't seen that. And that's one thing that the Raiders were able to have much success with, is the fact that they were able to run the football. You run the football, you wear down the Chiefs' defense, you keep their offense on the sideline, and in particular, Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce sitting on the bench. I don't think Buffalo's going to do that today. And that might be what is Buffalo's thorn in their side today, is that they're not able to establish a run game. They're not able to drain the clock. They're not able to implement or impose their will upon the Kansas City Chiefs. If this game turns into a shootout, it simply comes down to, and back in February or January I said this, it simply comes down to whoever has the ball last is who is going to win this game. Because there are no two quarterbacks better in this league than Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen. 1A, 1B, however you want to rank it. I think Allen's better at certain things. I think Mahomes is better at certain things. Same thought process I had around Tom Brady and Peyton Manning at that time. Both guys have attributes that I'd want in a quarterback. Both quarterbacks are guys that you'd want to lead your franchise. But both guys are just simply great. And that's, they're the two best. There's two best every era. And these are the two best within this era. There's a couple outliers, like the Big Ben Roethlisbergers of the world in that era. I think that's the Joe Burrow, the Justin Herbert. But these two guys are the best of the best. There is no way to debate that. Nobody can debate that with me. So if it comes down to a similar shootout style of game, we better hope we have the ball last. We better hope that this one doesn't come down to another coin toss. But I have a score prediction for you folks out there. For the rematch of the century, I do believe the Bills will win this game today. I believe that the Bills will win this game by a score of 35-31 and 35-21. And why do I believe the Bills can put up a 35 spot on the Kansas City Chiefs? I think the Chiefs' defense is far worse than Buffalo's defense. I think Buffalo's offense is arguably this season better than Kansas City. There is no hotter trio right now in the NFL, quarterback, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, than Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Gabe Davis. They're the best trio in the NFL right now. Passing, quarterback, wide receiver trio. Maybe Mahomes and Kelce arguably are the best duo, but trio, as far as quarterback dinking it to two receivers successfully, it's Allen, Diggs, and Davis. The ADD. So I think the Bills are going to put up 35 points on the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs and Bills will make this one close, especially once it gets to that 21-28 there's going to be a key defensive stop with the Bills leading the game 28-21. I predict it's either a Von Miller sack or a Kaiir Elam interception or maybe even a Matt Milano interception. And then the Bills will score a touchdown to really close this one out and win by 14. For the first time in a long time, Pat Mahomes is an underdog. That stuff just simply doesn't matter. I'm not looking at betting. I'm not looking at any of that garbage because it's a waste of time. And it's just silly. You know, I'm looking at this game X's and O's wise. The reality of it is these are the two teams that should be in the AFC Championship. And this game dictates whether or not, moving forward, we'll find out, but this game, we'll just live in the now. This game dictates Buffalo going 5-1, staying atop the AFC, and the Kansas City Chiefs falling to 4-2. The one thing we need more than anything in Orchard Park, New York, is to see the Bills with home field advantage in the playoffs. If we have home field advantage in the playoffs, 75,000 fans cheering on the Buffalo Bills, there's nobody that I'm afraid of with those 75,000 fans cheering on our Buffalo Bills. So there you have it. That is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Bills pregame show. I'll be on with the guys of 24/7 Buffalo Fandemonium today at 3:30 to give more analysis on this game, as well 7:30, 8 o'clock, give you guys my post-game show, how I saw this game, breaking it down once it's over. Hopefully, once it's over, it's a win, a solid win, and one that we can just wipe away the stench of what happened in January with the 13 seconds overtime coin toss loss in the AFC divisional round. I still have a tough time watching it. Last Friday, 2 days ago, I was at the casino, and they had it on. I was watching the fights, and then I went to the casino, and it was a tough one to watch, you know, but we're moving on. This is a new year. This is a new team. Von Miller and company, Josh Allen and company, ready to lock horns with Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go, Bills. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Enjoy the game.